Before anything there was nothing, not a single thing. No sand, no sea, no cool green grass. There was only a great yawning emptiness. This emptiness was called Ginnungagap. It was a space between worlds that did not yet exist, a silent, gaping void that stretched further than any mind could imagine. It was not dark, nor was it light. It simply was, and it waited. This primordial space was the canvas upon which everything that would ever be was destined to be painted. It held the potential for stars and gods, for giants and for men, but for a long, long time, it held only a profound and absolute silence, waiting for the first stirrings of creation. To the north of this great void lay a place of unimaginable cold. It was called Niflheim, a world of endless ice, thick fog, and biting frost. From its heart, 11 poisonous rivers, the Elivagar, flowed out into the emptiness. As they moved away from their source, the venomous water froze into massive blocks of ice and rime, layer upon layer, filling the northern part of Ginnungagap with a desolate, frozen landscape. It was a place of utter stillness, a kingdom of cold that was ancient and unforgiving. The air itself was frozen, and the mists that hung there were so thick you could not see your own hand in front of your face. This was one half of the beginning. To the south, there was another world, the complete opposite of Niflheim. This was Muspelheim, the land of fire. It was a place of eternal light and searing heat, where rivers of molten rock flowed and sparks danced in the air like fireflies. Flames licked at the edges of this realm, and its heat was so intense that nothing but those born to it could survive there. At the very edge of Muspelheim stood a giant named Surtur holding a flaming sword. He was older than the gods and would one day play his part in their end. The fiery embers and glowing sparks from Muspelheim drifted out into the void, a stark contrast to the creeping ice from the north. And so, in the middle of Ginnungagap, these two extremes met. The biting cold from Niflheim encountered the scorching heat from Muspelheim. It was a meeting of opposites, a cosmic collision. Where the hot air touched the frost, the ice began to melt. It did not turn to water but instead dripped. Drop by drop, the melting ice fell through the void, and in those drops life began to stir. It was not a sudden creation, but a slow, gradual awakening within the vast emptiness. The venom from the rivers of Niflheim, touched by the life-giving heat of Muspelheim, began to take shape, forming something new in the silent space between the realms of fire and ice. From the melting drops of venomous ice, a figure began to form. It was huge, larger than any mountain, and it took the shape of a man. This was the first being in all of creation, a frost giant named Ymir. He was not good, nor was he evil. He simply was. As Ymir slept in the warmth where fire met ice, sweat formed under his armpits. From the sweat under his left arm, a male and a female frost giant were born, and from his legs, a six-headed giant was born, one leg fathering the creature with the other. These were the first of the frost giants, a race born from the body of their enormous progenitor, and they would populate the cold places of the world. Ymir was not alone in the void for long. As more ice melted, another creature came into being. This was a cow, a cosmic cow of immense size. Her name was Audhumla. She was the great nourisher, and from her 4 udders flowed 4 rivers of milk. This milk was what sustained Ymir. He drank from her rivers and grew ever larger and stronger. Audhumla, in turn, needed her own sustenance. In the emptiness of Ginnungagap, there was no grass to graze upon, only the vast fields of salty, rime-covered ice blocks that had formed from the frozen rivers of Niflheim. So, she began to lick them. For 3 days Audhumla licked the salty ice. On the first day, as the sun set, the hair of a man appeared from the block she was licking. It was a strange and wondrous sight in the vast emptiness. She continued her work, her great tongue slowly shaping the ice. On the second day the man's head was free. He was handsome and strong, a new kind of being, neither giant nor born of fire. On the third day, the entire man was revealed, stepping free from his icy prison. His name was Buri, and he was the first of the gods, the ancestor of the Aesir who would one day rule the realms. Buri was powerful and fair, and soon he had a son named Bor. We are not told who Bor's mother was, but we know he followed in his father's footsteps, growing into a mighty figure. Bor then married a giantess, a daughter of one of the frost giants descended from Ymir. Her name was Bestla. Together Bor and Bestla had 3 sons. The first was Odin, the wisest and greatest of them all. The second was Vili, who gave reason and motion. The third was Ve, who gave the senses of sight and hearing. These 3 brothers were the first of the Aesir gods, and they saw that the world could be more than just giants and a cow in a void. Odin and his brothers Vili and Ve looked upon the world they had been born into. They saw the vast, unruly frost giant Ymir and his growing brood of cruel and brutish children. The brothers knew that as long as Ymir lived, there could be no order, no true world for other beings to inhabit. There was not yet a place for sunlight or for beauty. They decided that this had to change. A great war was coming, a conflict between the new gods and the old giant. The three brothers gathered their strength and courage, preparing to face the colossal being from whose body all giants had sprung. It was a decision that would change the shape of everything, forever. The battle was terrible and swift. The three sons of Bor fought against Ymir with all their might. Though Ymir was immense and ancient, the brothers were young, determined, and powerful. They fought in the misty void of Ginnungagap, and in the end they killed the great frost giant. When Ymir fell, so much blood poured from his wounds that it created a massive flood. This flood drowned all the other frost giants, every last one of them, except for two. A single giant named Bergelmir and his wife climbed onto a wooden box like a boat and floated to safety. With Ymir dead, Odin, Vili, and Ve had the raw material to create a new world. They lifted his enormous body and carried it to the center of Ginnungagap. This was the beginning of a grand and gruesome act of creation. They began to shape the cosmos from Ymir's corpse, turning death into the foundation for all life that was to come. From Ymir's flesh, the brothers made the earth. His bones they piled up to form the mountains and the high cliffs. His teeth and shattered fragments became the rocks and pebbles that we see everywhere. Ymir's blood was gathered to become the oceans, the lakes, and the rivers that encircle the land. They took his massive skull and raised it high above the earth to form the dome of the sky. To hold it up, they placed 4 dwarves named Nordri, Sudri, Austri, and Westri at its 4 corners. And that is why we have the directions, north, south, east, and west. With the earth and sky in place, the gods continued their work, creating the 9 realms. They took sparks and embers that flew from Muspelheim and tossed them into the sky, creating the sun, the moon, and all the stars. From Ymir's brain, they formed the clouds. They took Ymir's eyebrows and used them to build a great wall, a fortress to protect the world of men from the giants who had survived the flood. This central world, the one protected by the wall, they named Midgard, the Middle Earth. It was here that humanity would eventually live, a green and pleasant land surrounded by the vast ocean. The 9 realms were all connected by the great world tree, Yggdrasil, an ash tree whose roots and branches held everything together. At the very top was Asgard, the home of the Aesir gods, a realm of magnificent halls and golden palaces. Below Midgard lay Svartalfheim, the land of the dwarves, master craftsmen who lived in underground caves and forged magical treasures. Alfheim was the home of the light elves, beautiful and bright beings. Vanaheim was the realm of the Vanir gods, who were masters of magic and nature. Jotunheim was the wild land of the giants, a place of mountains and dark forests. Niflheim remained the world of ice and mist, and Muspelheim the world of fire. There was also Helheim, the realm of the dishonorable dead, ruled by Loki's daughter Hel. It was a grim and gloomy place beneath the earth. These 9 realms were not always at peace. The gods of Asgard were often in conflict with the giants of Jotunheim, and their stories are filled with tales of their struggles, their alliances, and their betrayals. The existence of these separate but connected worlds created a complex and vibrant cosmos, where different races and powers coexisted, each with its own destiny and purpose, all held in the balance by the mighty branches of Yggdrasil. The gods, men, elves, and dwarves lived their lives, largely unaware of the fate that awaited them all. But even from the beginning the end was foretold. The Norse did not believe their world would last forever. There was a prophecy, a story of a final cataclysmic battle known as Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. It tells of a time when the giants and the monsters, led by the fire giant Surtur and the trickster god Loki, will rise up against the gods of Asgard. In this battle, Odin will be swallowed by the great wolf Fenrir. Thor will slay the world serpent Jormungandr but die from its venom, and the world will be consumed by fire and flood. But Ragnarok is not just an end, it is also a rebirth. From the ashes, a new green world will emerge, and a new generation of gods and 2 human survivors will begin everything anew.